What's good? It's Woog. Leigh Wood is about to make his 130-pound debut. His current record is 28 wins and 3 losses, and he's about to take on Anthony Cacace, 23 wins and 1 loss. Anthony Cacace just vacated his IBF title that he won by stopping Joe Cordina. This was on the Tyson Fury versus Usyk 1 undercard, and I feel like Anthony Cacace's whole career kind of changed in a moment where the ref kind of half broke them up in what was a pretty even fight. The ref gave a verbal instruction and they kind of half abided by it, but then Joe Cordina dropped his guard completely. Anthony Cacace, just totally unguarded, hit Cordina with a left hook, and Cordina stayed on his feet, but he was wobbly. The ref kind of took a moment, said a little something to Anthony Cacace, but the fight turned on that moment, and it was just moments later, like the second the ref allowed them to continue fighting, Cacace just jumped on Joe Cordina and buzzed him even worse, like a few punches later, and within that same round, several seconds later, dropped Joe Cordina, and then it was all downhill from there. He ended up stopping Cordina, who had so much momentum coming into that fight. Anthony Cacace unexpectedly not only beat but stopped Joe Cordina in the 8th round to become IBF champion, and he defended it successfully against Josh Warrington, winning by unanimous decision. This was a case of Josh Warrington coming up from 126 to 130, which is exactly what Leigh Wood is going to be doing here. Now, Cacace again has vacated the title, so this is a 12-rounder, but it's not for any belt. Leigh Wood just vacated his WBA featherweight title, and it's kind of funny. Leigh Wood has become like a favorite within my family, specifically with my cousin and I. And for me, it started when Leigh Wood unexpectedly beat Zhu Can, or Can Zhu. This was back in July of 2021. He beat Zhu Can for a lesser version of the WBA featherweight title. And this was just a couple fights after Leigh Wood lost the decision to Joshua Dickens. So he wasn't like a super blue chipper at this time, but he beat Zhu Can for that WBA title. And then in the next fight, this is March of 2022, he has a fight of the year versus Michael Conlan. This is a fight that you have to see to believe. Michael Conlan at this time was still undefeated. I believe that this fight ruined Michael Conlan's career, but Conlan dropped Leigh Wood early in the fight, splattered him flat on his back, like at the end of the first round, hurt him time and time again, like in the second round, third round. Michael Conlan's really good at feinting low. He's got the long arms. He goes to the body, then he goes high. And he was catching Leigh Wood so cleanly. This ended up being a battle of attrition. Leigh Wood started, battling back, started backing Michael Conlan up. Conlan started hurting Leigh Wood to the body. Look, this is one of the best fights I have ever seen. Like, I was just shocked. I remember I was at my cousin's wedding at the time, and I was like in the hotel because this was like early afternoon. So I'm watching this thing after the wedding as we're preparing for the dinner reception and all of that. But as I'm watching this, I'm like, damn, is Leigh Wood battling back? Then I would see him double over from a couple body shots, and this just ended up being an ebb and flow. And Leigh Wood, who seemed like he was battling back but still maybe slightly down on the scorecard, ended up dropping Michael Conlan in the 11th round, and that was so timely. That's exactly what he needed. So it was anybody's guess who was winning going into the 12th round. And in that 12th round, Leigh Wood knocks Michael Conlan out of the ring and into Michael Conlan's brother's arms. This was so dramatic. And this was in Leigh Wood's hometown of Nottingham, England, as is this upcoming fight against Anthony Cacace. But yeah, this was a fight of the year. I think it took a lot out of both fighters. This was just one of those battles of attrition. It was super action-packed, entertaining. There was so much drama, and it ended about as dramatically as you can imagine. Michael Conlan was unconscious to the point where, after again securing the win, a come from behind rally win, Leigh Wood silences his own hometown crowd out of respect for what had just happened to his his fallen foe, Michael Conlan. And again, I don't think Michael Conlan has ever recovered chin-wise, durability-wise, just not the same guy. This was one of those kinds of fights. Again, if you haven't seen it, you have to see it to believe it. Michael Conlan versus Leigh Wood. It's about as good as it gets. So after that fight, Leigh Wood is scheduled to fight Mauricio Lara, Bronco Lara. This is at the height of the ferocity of Lara after he splattered Josh Warrington, giving him his first loss, and it was a devastating knockout loss. I think that fight actually kind of ruined Josh Warrington, but it made a name out of Mauricio Lara, who got another stoppage win after that, then fights Leigh Wood. Leigh Wood's boxing pretty well, and then towards the end of the 7th round, Mauricio Lara puts Leigh Wood flat on his back. Leigh Wood kind of scrambles to get up, beats the count towards the end of the round, but his trainer, Ben Davison, throws in the towel. I've always wondered, was that the right call? Like, Leigh Wood, I mean, I was just thinking, at least give him between rounds to see if he recovers. I mean, he went through, it seemed to me, far worse in that fight against Michael Conlan just before that. So I'm just thinking, you're gonna let Leigh Wood go through all of that, but you're not gonna let him try to recover from one knockdown in a fight where he was otherwise boxing pretty well against Mauricio Lara. But it is what it is. They stopped the fight and they end up running it back. Mauricio Lara misses weight. Leigh Wood in this one puts on a boxing clinic and beats Mauricio Lara via unanimous decision. I don't think we've seen the best of Lara since that knockout win over Leigh Wood. Mauricio Lara seems like he might have been a flash in the pan where either his training kind of diminished after that, but you know, he's gone up a division as well. I'm not sure we'll ever see the best of Mauricio Lara again. That might have just come and gone the way that it did. But after that, Leigh Wood fights Josh Warrington, who was kind of trying to make a comeback. He had beaten Kiko Martinez, then he lost a decision to Luis Alberto Lopez. That's the one that really put Luis Alberto Lopez on the map and allowed him to become champ. Well, after that decision loss for Josh Warrington, he hops in the ring with Leigh Wood. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I'm watching this, and again, I'm a Leigh Wood fan. Josh Warrington is kind of clobbering Leigh Wood. He's backing him up. He's doubling him over. He looks like he hurt him a few times. Like, he's all over Leigh Wood, beating him to the punch. You know how Josh Warrington also sometimes leads with the head, but he caused the cut due to punches, not headbutt, but punches. So he was working Leigh Wood, and I thought, like, damn, is he about to stop Leigh Wood here? Well, towards the end of the 7th round, Leigh Wood ends up breaking off a beautiful 2-3 punch combination. It looked like you almost can't see the punch that hurt Josh Warrington. It wasn't actually the left hook, which is one of Leigh Wood's signature punches. It wasn't the left hook. It was a little sweeping right just after that left hook. So it went like 1-2, like he just threw the right hand right on top of the left, and it was the right hand that came across and just chin checked Josh Warrington, had him on skates. 2 or 3 punches later, all landing beautifully. Leigh Wood flattens Josh Warrington at the end of the round. Like, you see Josh Warrington hit the canvas, you hear the end of the round sound, and then Josh Warrington makes it up to his feet, but then he hobbles over to his corner, kind of like puts his arms and leans over the ropes. The ref looks at him, his corner looks at him, and they just stop the fight. Dramatic win for Leigh Wood. Another dramatic win for Leigh Wood. So yeah, Leigh Wood just pulls out all the stops. He's not done until he's done, and he has just, over the past 4 years, just carved out this late career resurgence that has made him one of the fan friendliest fighters out there. And again, he's about to go up in weight and fight Anthony Cacace, who's got a lot of momentum coming into this. And Anthony Cacace himself is a bit of a late bloomer. Both of these guys are 36 years old, but Cacace was nearly unknown. Like, he had lost like Martin Joseph Ward back in 2017. You know, he had beaten lower level guys for most of his career before that, started picking up a few wins against guys with winning records, and then he had that fight against Joe Cordina, which was his breakout party, and then he has the win over Josh Warrington. And so now, again, no IBF title anymore, but he's about to be fighting Leigh Wood. So, you know, again, I'm a Leigh Wood fan. I know I've said it a couple times already, but I don't think this is gonna go well for Leigh Wood. First of all, he's giving up a lot of size here. He's about 5'7", Cacace is about 5'10". Leigh Wood's reach is about 67 inches. Cacace is about 71 inches. So clear height reach advantage for Anthony Cacace. Now, Leigh Wood will have opportunities as Cacace comes in. He likes to work the body a lot. He throws pretty hard, even though he doesn't have a high knockout percentage. Only 8 of his 23 wins have come via knockout, but Cacace does throw pretty hard. It's actually interesting that he has so few knockouts, but he will work you to the body. Leigh Wood, I'm not sure about his chin at the stage. Like, was he getting beaten up by Josh Warrington because the weight cut was too much? I know the weight cut had been a big deal for Leigh Wood for some time, especially like in that second fight against Mauricio Lara, where Lara blows weight and Leigh Wood looks like bone dry on the scales, having made the weight at 126, where again his opponent blew weight, Mauricio Lara. They were thinking about not even making the fight, but Leigh Wood, pretty brave dude, decided to go forward with it. And again, he boxed Mauricio Lara's ears off there. So when Leigh Wood gets chin checked, like he got dropped again by Michael Conlan badly, he got, knocked out by Mauricio Lara, he got not dropped, but beaten up and hurt visibly a few times by Josh Warrington. Is this a chin issue or was it a weight issue? Well, he's going to be fighting again at 130 this time. This is one division up from where he pretty much made his name and made most of his career. And at this stage, I just don't see, look, he's got a puncher's chance. He's a good boxer, but I don't necessarily think that he's going to outbox Cacace over the course of 12 rounds here. He could win a few rounds outboxing Cacace, but Cacace having that size advantage, when they start mixing it up and Cacace starts letting his hands go to the body, mixing up the attack high and low, I could see him hurting Leigh Wood. Leigh Wood's really going to have to thread the needle and start punching between Cacace's punches, which again, there are opportunities there. He could hit him with, that nice left hook. He could hit him with his nice straight right. Leigh Wood's got, he's a two-fisted hard puncher, or he sometimes switches to southpaw and can hit you with the right hook or the straight left. So Leigh Wood could hit you with a variety of punches. Also throws a pretty nice uppercut. I just think that the work rate is going to be higher for Anthony Cacace, and it's going to look like Leigh Wood is wearing the punches a little bit worse. I also don't like the layoff here. That fight against Josh Warrington, that dramatic knockout over Josh Warrington, was in October of 2023. So it's been over a year and a half since the now 36-year-old has been in a fight. Anthony Cacace, on the other hand, had 2 fights in 2024, Joe Cordina and Josh Warrington. So Cacace's been busier. Again, they're both 36 years old. I kind of think Cacace is going to stop Leigh Wood here. I hope I'm wrong. And again, if he pulls out a dramatic victory, then that is just one more beautiful win on the resume of Leigh Wood. Again, the legend continues. But again, I don't think it's going to go well for him. I think him and Ben Davison, they do have a good partnership going, and they have for a while. Ben Davison, I'm sure, is going to be looking at those opportunities that Anthony Cacace gives his opponents to hit him cleanly. Look, in that fight where he knocked out Joe Cordina popped him several times cleanly with counter left hooks. I don't know, one, Leigh Wood's durability at 130, and I don't know if his heavy punch carries from 126 to 130. I'd assume that he still has some pop, but again, I just don't know if his work rate is going to be as consistent as Anthony Cacace. I think there's a high likelihood that Anthony Cacace stops Leigh Wood, but I'm going to give Leigh Wood some of the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say that he battles back, makes a spirited fight out of this, and Anthony Cacace ends up winning a close decision over Leigh Wood. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to go Anthony Cacace via maybe like majority decision win, where one has it a draw and the other 2 judges have it something like 116 to 112 for Anthony Cacace. But I'm going to pick Cacace. He's not the younger fighter. Again, they're both 36, but I feel like he's the fresher fighter. He wasn't in a fight of the year, brutal fight against Michael Conlan. He wasn't in 2 fights against Mauricio Lara. He fought Josh Warrington, but he beat Josh Warrington by decision fairly easily. It wasn't nearly as labored an effort as Leigh Wood's come from behind victory, knockout victory over Josh Warrington, which again resulted in another war for Leigh Wood. He's been in a few of them in recent fights. And maybe in that regard, some of the time off is good, but between not being in full rhythm as well as not having the durability at 130, I think that this fight is going to feature probably a knockdown. I'm going to give Leigh Wood's survival efforts the benefit of the doubt and his heart the benefit of the doubt here. If he outboxes Anthony Cacace, hats off to Leigh Wood. Like if he wins by decision here, beautiful. I just think that Anthony Cacace, I was going to go with him via stoppage, but I'm going to go with him via majority decision, something like that. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Leigh Wood versus Anthony Cacace. I don't think either one of them is going to have much longer a career, but I feel like this might be Leigh Wood's final fight. I know he's wanted to fight at this one venue in Nottingham. Again, this fight's going to be in Nottingham, but there's this other venue that he's been dying to fight at. They just haven't been able to make it happen. I don't know if he doesn't have enough of a crowd, but I feel like this might be Leigh Wood's final fight. Anthony Cacace, on the other hand, I feel like he might have another couple fights in him. Maybe he chases down another title at 130. The belt holders currently are, there's a vacancy for the IBF because again, Anthony Cacace vacated it. O'Shaquie Foster is the WBC champ. Emmanuel Navarrete is the WBO champ, and he's got an upcoming title defense, by the way, this same day as Leigh Wood versus Anthony Cacace. It's going to be against Charlie Suarez. And Lamont Roach Jr., who's going to probably be running it back with Tank Davis, is still the WBA 130-pound title holder. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Leigh Wood, the return of Leigh Wood versus Anthony Cacace in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.